At least once a year, I would have a class where I didn't use my voice at all. Here's why.
You're listening to That Music Podcast with Bryson Tarbet, the curriculum designer and educational consultant behind That Music Teacher and the Elementary Music Summit. Each week, Bryson and his guests will dive into the reality of being an elementary music teacher and how music can truly be transformative in the lives of the students you serve. Show notes and resources mentioned in this episode can be found at thatmusicteacher.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to That Music Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a silent rehearsal or a silent class or whatever you want to call it. And I think there's a couple different reasons why you might use this. I've used it maybe once or twice a year, but I think that they can be really helpful to have in your back pocket for a couple of things. One, if you're having a vocal health day, if you're just getting if you just had COVID or whatever and you have no voice, well, obviously you're going to have to come up with some different things. So there are different ways you could do that. Maybe you're going to use lean a little bit more heavily on technology. Maybe you're going to lean a little bit heavily on your student models. But I think something I want to share, the example that I'm going to share today is, it isn't necessarily because I couldn't use my voice. It was more because I didn't want to. And I wanted to get the students used to, I kind of wanted to shake things up a little bit. So while this is a really good strategy, if you're having a bad vocal health day, or if you just need a minute to not use your voice, this can also be a really good way to just get your students to try something new and to pay more attention and to stop talking so much. This is really where this kind of came out of is, those classes, I have 28 fourth graders and they are just nonstop. And no matter what I say, they're always talking over me. And to that I say, all right, so expect to get less done in the next class, but expect to say very little. So what might this look like? So for instance, I did this a lot with my students with recorders. So I would literally walk them in the door. I'd meet them at the door. I'd kind of give them a gentle nod and a smile. And I would gesture for them to come into the room. At this point, they know that when they come into the room, they're supposed to sit on their dot. And I would literally just model every single thing I wanted them to do. So if I wanted them to sit on the floor with their recorder in front of them, I would take my recorder, I'd put it on the floor, and I would just gesture to it. Eventually, students will start doing the same thing, and it kind of becomes this like, oh, okay, let's do it. We'll do it. And then I literally just kind of model. All right, hold the recorder up. So I don't say anything. I just pick it up. I show the note I want to play. I point to me. I play, I might go beep, 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 beep. Then I point to them and they play beep, 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 and literally just give them as much feedback. Make it funny if you need to. But if they're playing really, really loud, kind of maybe cover your ears and go like, oh, that's too much. Or, if they're playing really quiet, you could be like, hello, put your hand to your ear and really kind of lean into your inner mime. What I love about this way is it really gets the students thinking more about what they're doing. They're not going on autopilot because they can't, because there's a new way of interacting with the teacher that isn't the normal way. They have to really pay attention. And what I've noticed is, there will be some students that are like really, really into like, why isn't he talking? Is he sick? Is he sick? And they might even say, Mr. Tarbet, are you sick? And you can kind of shake your head like, no, not sick. And like, why are you doing this? You might just shrug your shoulders. But really, what I've done with this and what I've seen work with this is that it allows your students to pay attention in a different way. So in this case, with my fourth graders in recorder, we did a little bit of a warm up. Again, all I'm doing is essentially miming and then giving feedback non-verbally, and then having them try to respond to that feedback. So again, if they were overblowing, I might, cover my ears, and then model it again, or I might even model it the wrong way, right? Where I play it really, really loud, and then I kind of shake my hands like, no, we don't want that, and go through, and then have say, all right, I might model, say, all right, yeah, 5 minutes, kind of look at my watch, then holding a 5, I might point to hot cross buns, and then I, give them a thumbs up, and eventually they'll start going. Or if they don't figure going, you start, giving them more opportunities. You just say, all right, turn towards, all of this is non-verbally. It's just because it's a podcast. It doesn't work very well if I just only model. So there might be something that would be worthwhile watching on YouTube rather than iTunes, if that's typically where you listen. But this might sound a little bit far-fetched. but I think it's a really good way to break a pattern. For instance, I usually see, like I said, this is normally where recorder is normally where this would come out, because I typically see this very similar turn of events when we do recorder. They're really excited when we first get started, and then the attention to detail, the excitement just kind of falls off. And at that point, we have two options, right? We can abandon ship, or we can try something new. And I don't want to be done yet. So we're going to try something new and use that as an opportunity to shake it up a little bit. So it's not just the same old, we're really trying something new. So I know this is a really short episode because really it all can become down to, talk less, smile more, right? Bringing it back to Hamilton, but really just like see what happens. And you don't necessarily need to do the entire class. Maybe you just do the first 10 minutes, or maybe you just do in the middle when you have some sort of activity that they already typically know how to do. But really show that, when you really give it your all, I think you'll be interested to see just how the energy in the room is different. The students, even the students who aren't necessarily super into it, usually they'll be really locked in because they're like, what is Mr. Tarbet doing? Why is he doing this? What is going on? And they'll be really, really locked in, and they'll have a little bit different light of engagement. Now, a couple of things about this. First of all, be wary of how long you do this and for what grades. I've done an entire fourth grade recorder rehearsal where I didn't say a single word. Which is funny because at the end I'll be like, all right, great. And they're like gasp, like I scared them. I would not do the whole thing for kindergarten. If I'm doing something for kindergarten, it might be like one activity. Like if I wanted them to, if we were practicing using an instrument or something, and I just wanted to be a little bit silly, that's something I might do doing kindergarten. But also be aware of how often you do it. If you do this a lot, the novelty wears off. Like I said, I might do this once or twice a year. Not necessarily for every grade, but like once or twice a year, period. Over all of the grades. Having it in your back pocket is really good. Most of the time I wouldn't really plan for it to be a silent rehearsal unless it was like, all right, that lesson just completely crashed and burned. So did the last 5 lessons. We're going to do a silent rehearsal next week and just see if we can change things up. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no specific length to do it. I think that there's just you got to give it a shot. And I think it's to be fully transparent, there are likely some teachers who are wonderful teachers who will find no success in this because everything is so unique to us as teachers, right? If, or even not necessarily just our teachers, but the students we have, right? Or the combination of the two. Sometimes they're just not going to work. So be ready to abandon ship. If students are being unsafe or being unkind or really, really just like going off the rails, it's time to kill it. Be like, all right, we're done. We're going to move off. I guess we can't handle that, and just kind of move on to something else. I hope you enjoyed this short and sweet episode of That Music Podcast. If you have not listened to us review over on iTunes or wherever you listen to us, please do so, because it helps us not only get in front of new educators just like you, but it helps us understand what types of episodes you want more of, less of, and what conversations you want to go a little bit deeper on. With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And in case nobody has told you lately, thank you so much for making a difference in the lives of the students that you teach.